Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to episode 134 of NerdPod Generations. As always, I am one of your illustrious hosts, Steve Taylor, along with the lovely Al Judson. Hello, sir.
Hello, friends and enemies.
Good to see you, man.
Hey, we're back again. We're here.
It's been a week.
It's been a week.
Oh,
my Lord.
It's a beautiful day, though.
It's glorious. We're going to see tomorrow during Eclipse Day if that ends up actually being a fucking thing or not.
The fact that there's not a cloud in the sky right now, if it's cloudy tomorrow, that would just be the ultimate Rochester FU to everything.
I'm waiting. I'm waiting patiently because that's what's going to happen.
Dude, let me tell you, all at work this week, and for folks who don't know, I work at a grocery store called Wegmans. For those of you who are listening, not from Rochester or upstate New York, it's like the mecca of grocery stores.
It's not just a grocery store.
We were not a grocery store this week. We were a museum.
Yeah.
Because people from out of town, and you could see like groups, and then you had the one person from Rochester who was the tour guide, and they're all looking and pointing, and I'm like, should I put on a hat and do a dance?
Monkey.
Yeah, that's what I felt like. I'm like, oh, this is okay. Mm-hmm. There were people from Alaska, like people all over the place.
No, they apparently like 500,000 people are coming into town, only to find out tomorrow that there's like a 30-70 split.
Yeah.
That it's going to be cloudy.
Yeah.
And I can't wait.
Welcome to Rochester.
Can't wait.
Well, I mean, at least they're getting a beautiful day today because it is gorgeous.
Yeah.
I actually did a lot of yard work today, which made me happy.
Go check out Highland Park.
Yeah, exactly.
Before the Lilac Festival.
Yes.
Before it gets crazy.
Which, man, that's getting close. I still can't believe how fast time is flying.
Yeah, I hate it.
Like,
it's
my
April.
son now is 1 month away from turning 9.
That sucks.
Which
I mean,
is
it's great.
nuts.
Congratulations.
No, that
but
sucks.
yeah.
That really sucks.
Yeah.
So, folks, for those of you who are listening, obviously this is NerdPod Generations 134, meaning there's 133 back catalog episodes. Find us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Make sure to let other people know about us. Make sure to like and subscribe to our podcast wherever you listen to us. And then make sure to go to youtube.com to where Al has been uploading segments from recent shows. And he has done some post shows, some of the older ones. But we are busy, so we don't have a lot of the older ones. Mainly some of the highlights, like our Obi-Wan shows.
We're working on it. I got to do if I have time this week, I'm going to audit old shows to find out which ones have DC segments. And that's going to be the next thing that I'm going to try and get up.
Gotcha.
Is all the DC animated segments
Which
that we've
those are
done.
good segments.
Exactly.
Really
those are some of our high hitters. So
yeah.
I want to get those on YouTube, but I have to go back and figure out which ones they all came from.
But if you do check us out on YouTube, make sure to like and subscribe also. And then, in the comments, you can let us know certain things you want us to talk about during the podcast, or let us know what you think of the videos. Because, once again, you don't see us, you just see our awesome logo. But you do get to hear us, and there are some older videos that we have up there that do show our lovely faces.
If you do want to see what we look like,
I don't know why you would want to. But
I don't either. Frankly, I don't get it.
I mean, that artwork is the best thing that ever happened to us.
It's the best thing that we have right now for us. We don't need to have our faces. No. It's to the point where if we ever got to a point where we could do like a Comic-Con live show, I might still come out with the Spider-Man mask on. Yeah. Because it would still be more appropriate.
And I remembered my tangent.
Yeah, there it is.
We're going to start the show off. We love tangents.
We were talking about streaming services not selling things.
This has nothing to do with any of that, which blows my mind. So we are going to get into our first topic, which is what are we watching, playing, reading. But I got to let you know, thanks to a good friend of mine, I've kind of gotten into vintage posters.
Oh, fun.
And it's vintage movie posters. He, for Christmas, had got me Star Trek 5, 6, and Nemesis. And they're all first-rate. And the Star Trek 6 one was the promotional one before the actual movie poster, where it has General Chang's face looking up at the end. It's awesome. Oh. And I love the kind of distress look to older posters because they were folded.
Yeah.
But in the frames, they look awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So I might have gone on
a little bit of a bender,
a certain site where you can bet on, or not bet on things, but
bid on
things.
And Steve, I don't know. Have I ever heard of this site? If you look around my house right now,
eBay might have. I don't know. eBay might have.
Maybe.
eBay might have. I found Star Trek 3: The Search for Spock and 4: The Voyage Home, and super vintage, a little more than I probably should have spent, but they look like I'm waiting for them to come in the mail, and I can't wait. I actually have them hanging in our bedroom because there's really nowhere else in our house, and luckily, since my wife and I don't spend a lot of time in the bedroom, she's like, yeah, you can put stuff up there on the walls. I don't care. I'm like, nice.
There you
go.
So
I sleep with General Chang's face right next to my head, and it's awesome.
Give him a little smooch before you go to bed.
A little smooch. All right, folks, there's our tangent. I got to move on to a quick to what have we been watching, playing, reading. And I figure you will start off this week because I started off the last couple weeks.
I have a laundry list. I've been busy. So first and foremost, a little continued shout out to our YouTube channel. I have been streaming Spider-Man 2 the game. Oh. I've gone back to streaming that, so I streamed it a few times this week, a few nights this week. So those episodes, streams, whatever you want to call them, they're on YouTube. And it's not like a commentary or anything. It's just my genuine reaction and the story of the game. So you kind of get to watch and play along with me. Nice. It's a fun little thing. So if you ever want to check that out, I'm going to continue to do it. I'm about halfway through the game, which of course means that I'm already at level 50. And I've done most of the side quests. And the only way that I'm halfway through the game is in the sense that I've only played through like the first 10 missions of the game.
I got you.
And so there's still plenty of game left to go. But beyond that, I've been a busy little bee. I did want to bring up Dark City. I watched Dark City. That's an interesting one.
Such an underrated movie.
It's an interesting one for a few reasons. One, for me, it is cinematic NyQuil. I fell asleep. 3 times in this movie. Not in the same sitting. Watched it, fell asleep. Tried to watch it again, fell asleep. Tried to watch it a third time, had to stand up and walk around my living room so I didn't fall asleep again. But I made it through Dark City. I did it. I like it in concept. It's very breakneck. It does not spend any time kind of luxuriating in anything. There's almost no establishing shots in the entire thing. There's no room for breathing with any of the characters. Everything is just bam, 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 bam. So it's a lot, but it is a good movie. It's a good neo-noir. I already knew the ending before I watched it, so it wasn't like a big thing to find out.
And I think that's the thing I liked about it is it was a genre's original thing where it's a sci-fi noir. Yeah. Which you don't see a lot of those. I mean, other than like Blade Runner. Yeah. You don't really get too many of those.
They don't give you any answers on anything. No. Absolutely no answers. So that can be a little maddening at times, where you have this whole storyline of this guy that can bend reality, and you're just like, and why is that a thing? Because everybody is freaked out that it's a thing, and they never talk about why he can do it. It's just not part of the plot, even though it's an intrinsic part of the plot. And but it's not what they're focused on. I did want to throw out there the interesting note that I get it, it's a noir, but the fact that there are no female characters besides Jennifer Connelly and a bunch of prostitutes that are killed. I know it's from the 90s, I know. But, like, even so, there was a moment of, like, man, this is just dudes. Yeah. This is just dudes. There's women in the background. You see them walking around town, but this is just dudes.
And as much as I like the movie, I really don't like Kiefer Sutherland's character.
His accent, his mannerism, weird, whatever he's doing, his affectation, it's a lot. And Rufus Sewell, he's just like running through this script as fast as an off-brand Jude Law can. Yeah. And you have Bill Hurt shows up with an accordion, and you're like, okay, this is interesting. We don't spend any time on that. No, not at all. And you have like the cops in this world, and you're like, oh, this is interesting. We're not going to spend any time on that. I'm saying it like it's a bad movie. It's not a bad movie, but it's a little dated considering it's not that old. Dated,
especially the special effects.
Yeah. Considering it's not that old, it's a little dated. Yeah. And not in that, like, oh, you can tell that The Matrix came out last year. But, like, the way that the film is made and produced is a little dated. And what they focus on. And so it is just it was very interesting. Usually I expect that out of a movie from the 50s or the 60s or the 70s. But to see it in a movie.
Think about it, though. It's 98. So in reality, it's almost 30 years old, which is, I know it seems like it hasn't been that old.
I was thinking about that.
Years old.
I was thinking about that in the context of when I was a kid. If you had said that something was 50 years old, it would be from the 40s. And now, if you say something's 50 years old, it's from the 70s. Yeah. And that's crazy to me.
Well, when Star Wars came out, to say, oh, well, let's compare it to a movie from 1950. You're like, holy shit. Yeah. And that's kind of what it is now with Dark City. You're like, okay.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, different time, different style. So I wanted to touch on that. And then yesterday, Kelly treated me to a wonderful day of all movies all the time.
Oh, nice.
So we're going to talk about RoadHouse, which is one of the ones that we watched yesterday. I only want to touch on it really quickly. The last movie that we watched was Monkey Man from Dev Patel.
Oh, how was that?
So we went out to the Pittsford Cinema.
You went to the new one.
It's so good. We need to go there next time we go to a watch and review.
Okay.
We absolutely have to go there because it is so good, and the tickets are about as reasonably priced as they are anywhere else. Excellent experience.
What is the setup like in the theater?
It's only like 3 or 4 rows
Okay.
of seats, and then you have this swivel table that kind of like comes in and out, so you can put your drinks and stuff on it. And the seats don't recline all the way, but the feet rest come up,
Okay.
so you can kind of sit back. And it's just it's a wonderful theater experience. You order everything online. You don't have like a waiter or anything. They bring out stuff to you, but you just like scan a QR code and you order that way. It's really good.
Is it distracting during the movie if people coming in and out with delivering things?
No more so than usual.
Okay.
And it's only usually for like the first 20 or 30 minutes of the movie that you'll have anything coming in and out. So it's not that bad. But the movie itself is also incredible. Absolutely incredible. It is going to be the It movie of this year. In the same way that Everything Everywhere All at Once was the It movie, this is going to be the It movie.
So it fixed your Green Knight issues.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And Dev Patel wrote and directed.
Okay.
Amazing script, amazing story, very well done. It doesn't hold your hand, I will say. There are a lot of elements of Indian culture that you have to know coming in. You don't get lost because you're still like, okay, I understand what's going on. But there's so much more to understand if you do any digging into it. So, like, they don't talk about the caste system in India, but you can definitely see it. They don't talk about this one religious order that plays a huge part in the second act of the movie, but you get an understanding of who they are and what they believe in and where they come from and why they're ostracized by the people around them. It's a really good movie. It's paced out very interestingly where it drops you right into the action, and it gives you that kind of quick hitters where you're like, I think I know what's happening, but it's more me kind of picking up on hints than being told anything.
Okay.
And it's just a really fascinating movie. It's really, really good, extremely well directed. The visuals are so cool and so well done. And it's just like there's moments where you're like, I don't know if this takes place in the past or in the modern age. You do. It takes place in the modern age, obviously, if you watch the movie. But there's just moments in it where you're like, man, this could take place at any time. And I was so impressed. It's an A++. Nice. It's so good.
That's awesome.
So Monkey Man, go out and see it. It's well worth it. Subtitles might be something you wanna have. This is definitely going to be something that we're going to buy to watch at home for many reasons, including for me anyway. I need some subtitles for some of the scenes because there's subtitles in some scenes but not in others. But even actors like Shalter Copley, who plays a wrestling promoter, his accent is so thick that there were a lot of moments where I was like, sure, whatever he said.
I love him. I wish he would be put in more films. Like I've always right from District 9 I've liked him. And even what's that god awful Chappie, which he played Chappie. I thought he was
in the A-Team. I remember him.
He was awesome as Mad Dog Murdoch in the A-Team. And Elysium, he was great as the big bad.
Yeah.
But like he's always been really good, and you don't see him enough.
No, it's true. And he always plays like the kind of weirdo on the periphery. Have you ever seen Hardcore Henry?
Yes. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Same with that.
Very
I'll never get over
movie.
him showing up on the bus, being lit on fire and thrown out of the bus, and you're just like, what the fuck?
A lot of that movie is what the fuck.
Oh yeah. But the other one that I wanted to touch on, and the one that we started the day with, was Wish. Wish is now...
We watched that as well.
Yes, so you can join in on this conversation. Wish is now available on Disney+.
Yep.
And
finally, that's another one like Godzilla -1 where you're like, why the hell did it take so long?
Yeah.
Not only to get on Disney+, it wasn't available to rent, where it wasn't like, oh, rent it for $20.
Well, it did. It had a little bit of infamy attached to it for a little bit. Disney wanted to let the fires cool down before they invited more people to set fires to it. Because when it came out, it was not terribly well received.
No.
And I can kind of see why.
Yeah, it's a little like the songs are not good. I think that was the thing.
Songs are not good. That's a big problem. Is that you can tell when you have a Broadway lyricist,
Yeah.
or when you have a pop song lyricist.
Yes.
and this is very clearly pop song lyricist coming in writing pop songs that are supposed to sound like Disney Broadway songs, but they are definitely not.
Not at all.
You would never hear any of these songs in a Broadway setting.
Like to go from Encanto to this, you're like, oh, okay, I get.
Maybe the Revolution song, but only after the entire chorus joins in. That was a good song that gave me goosebumps. I was like, this is good. I like this.
Yeah.
But every other song, I was like, this is just nothing. This is just a flat out amount of nothing. The Star song where they were trying to explain why the star is the way that it made no sense.
It made no sense.
It was like they were hinting and like, but did you get it? And I'm like, I've never encountered science in a Disney movie before, so you're gonna have to bear with me when your answer is we're all made out of stardust, but you won't say that. You won't say it, but you'll heavily imply it over and over again. And I'm just sitting here like, oh, this is so a left turn from what I was expecting, especially in a movie that is fed 100% on nostalgia.
Oh, absolutely.
There is no story to this movie.
No. I mean, like, even the end credits are like the
older
characters.
The end credits, I think, are a perfect microcosm of the entire movie, because you get through the credits. For anybody who hasn't seen it, over the credits, since this is the 100th anniversary of Disney as a studio, not necessarily the 100th film, but the 100th anniversary of a studio, this is the big, like, oh, it's all of the Disney things. So the entire movie is Disney references, just the entire thing. And then at the very end, they go for 3, where they have, like, the castle, and then they have the Mickey ears that are specifically drawn on. And then you have the book closing, but it's a CGI book. And me and Kelly are both looking at each other like, why the fuck would you go to the bother of doing this if you're not going to do a real book? I don't understand that. And then over the credits themselves, they have images from every Disney movie in ascending order. And there weren't all of them. And some of them, you're like, okay, you don't want to do 3 caballeros. We can have a conversation about that. That's fine. I'm not gonna sit here and argue with you over that. Both Rescuer movies are dropped, fully dropped, not referenced in any way. They have Barnyard. They have Bolt. They have so many things here, and I'm like,
people don't give a shit.
So these guys made it.
Yeah,
these guys made it. But everybody that, if you were in a sequel or a movie that doesn't have a cult following, like, I knew you weren't going to do Black Cauldron. We all knew you weren't going to do Black Cauldron. We were taking bets on whether you were going to do Black Cauldron. Of course you weren't going to do it, because you're cowards. You're total fucking cowards. But the Rescuers and the Rescuers Down Under, you're going to cut all of that shit? Seriously?
Bob Newhart
Seriously?
dirty, man.
And I was just blown away. But that is the entire film. They have an idea, a concept. The concept is very clear. It's not hard to understand what they are doing. But then they make this decision that is so tragically flawed to fully undo entire sections of what they've been building. When they start the movie, they're like, oh, it's a fantasy thing, right? It's a sorcerer and all these people, and you can grant wishes. And then they shrink down. They're like, on this island in the Mediterranean. Don't listen. You can imply in Cinderella and Sleeping Beauty that it takes place in Europe, right? I don't care that Tiana takes place in New Orleans, because that makes fucking sense within the context of everything that happens. Don't tell me that this is some island in the Mediterranean, because that's going to reframe all the context for everything that happens from here on out. Because all I'm going to be thinking is, so, like, what's happening with the plague and everything? Like, what's going on with everything else? Because, you know, that area, highly traveled, kind of had a lot of things happen in the Mediterranean. So if you're going to set it there, you need to have a good reason. And it doesn't make sense with the story that you're telling to have it take place on Earth. No one told you to do that. No one told you had to do that, but you did it. You went ahead and you did it. I don't fucking get it. I don't understand why you would do that, but sure. If you want to say that Snow White specifically is in Germany, I don't think you need to do that, but I guess you can. And so this movie does it. It's like, no, it takes place here. And then it has this whole magic arc. And then at the left turn, it's like, oh no, but science is also really important and real, and we also have to talk about it.
No, there was...
Okay.
It was... And that's the thing, is it wasn't... I wouldn't say it's a bad movie. Like, my kids loved it. That's kind of what you're aiming for. It just... Like you said, it didn't really have it. It really wasn't a movie. It was like... Just a long one-shot.
It was like if you had 2-minute YouTube videos and you had like 30 of them.
Yeah.
And they told a story if you watched all 30 of them, but they were kind of like these segmented 2-minute clips. That's kind of the feeling I had, where it's like, okay, so this is the Beauty and the Beast one, and this is the Cinderella one, and this is the Snow White one, and this is the other Snow White one, and this is the third Snow White one. But that was kind of it. Here's a Lion King shot. Did you see it the first time? Because here it is again. And it just all over and over and over and over and over again. I didn't mind the plot, but there wasn't a plot.
There wasn't.
Exactly. There was no plot to speak of. No. To the point where the villain is turned into a mirror, and all the people are like, "Oh, he always loved mirrors." I'm like, did he? Was that a part of it? Because I didn't get. He had mirrors, but like I don't know that he ever had a moment where he was like
like when he got manic at the end and he put his face on the castle in multiple places.
Yeah.
That wasn't mirrors.
That was windows and shit.
That was windows.
And so I was just like, does he? He has the one magic door that's a mirror.
Yes.
And in his song, he has a lot of mirrored versions of himself singing. That song sucked.
I love Chris Pine, but that song
sucked.
That song sucked.
I love Ariana DeBose. Her songs weren't good either.
No, they weren't
Why
good.
is she a tour leader? When we meet her, why is she a tour leader?
Yeah.
What the fuck is this? Why are we doing this? What is this? What is it? So this takes place in the Dark Ages, I have to assume by the clothes that everybody's wearing, in the Mediterranean, but you have a tour guide? What the fuck? What the fuck? But what the fuck? Weird. And then you had the issue of like, I love the conceit of let's take every style of animation we've ever had and we're going to fold them all into one movie. I love it in concept. The execution on it left a lot to be desired.
Absolutely.
There were a lot of moments where things had a weirdly heavy toon shade line around things, and then other moments where that wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
I compare it to everything dovetailing together. You know, you want to have everything kind of settle together and close properly, like that roof that they kept on struggling to open over and over again. Which again,
that was the most frustrating.
Another scene where I'm just like, God,
just jump off the fucking ledge. I know what you're gonna do. Just fucking do it.
But you want everything to kind of fold in together, and there were a lot of moments where there's just the one flap that's not quite right, that in the airplane check flap light is going off, and you're just like, it's not quite there. It doesn't quite coalesce. Is it bad? It's not terrible. It's not good. I would give it like a C-. I kept on getting distracted by how Asha, the main character, she has these braids. I kept on getting distracted by the fact that they would flow up and down in one unified look and never move. Never move anywhere besides on this one shoulder. Didn't matter what she was doing, whether she was running or riding a horse or doing something. They would just flow up and down in one singular motion. And I was just like, what is happening?
No, it was odd. And it was so blatant that star, they're like, oh, dude, that's our plushie.
Oh, it was...
Kelly, I've never seen something that's more of a plushie in my entire life.
Kelly was like, are you ready for merch? And I was like, are you ready for merch number 2? We already have one. And
what's the one?
The goat.
Oh, yeah, the talking goat. Which, the whole talking animal thing, that
I
was
thought
weird. They could have
played
that off more than they did. It was kind of a second thought where everyone's like, all right, animals are talking, okay.
Yeah. Again, it was this weird lack of world building.
Yeah, and great.
I know that for Kelly, I love Alan Tudyk. We love Alan Tudyk. His voice choices made us crazy. Like, he came in with like half a dozen versions of this voice to do for them. I don't know why they chose this one. It made us crazy the whole time. Anytime he talked, we were like, I fucking hate his voice. I fucking hate it. And just... lost opportunities, missed chances, and once again, a message instead of anything of actual merit.
Yeah. For me, I'm going to continue my MCU.
Oh, wonderful. How did that man go?
Well, first, before I say that, going off of the Star Wars thing, or Star Trek thing, I watched Star Trek 3: The Search for Spock, which I have not seen in a while. It's fucking so great and cheesy. I love it. All right, so...
Chris Lloyd in that still blows my mind.
Oh, he's awesome.
Yeah.
He's so awesome in it. So I went... We were going to watch Ant-Man because we're starting the post-Age of Ultron. Ethan wasn't really into watching it. We're going to watch it tonight because I don't say anything about this. He really wants to watch Spider-Man. And I told him, you can't watch Spider-Man until we watch Civil War, and we can't watch Civil War until we watch Ant-Man. So if you want to watch it, we have to watch Ant-Man. And I think you'll like Ant-Man because it's silly.
It's fun.
So
it's made for his age.
He goes, I don't want to watch Ant-Man, but I want to watch a Marvel movie. I said, well, the only two...
You want to watch Guardians 2?
Guardians 2 or Doctor Strange are the only two that are not directly connected. So we watch Guardians 2. Really don't like that movie.
It's a trash pile.
It's a trash pile. And my takeaway from it was cinematically, you had one of the greatest missed opportunities. Because not only did you have Tango and Cash in the same movie, but then you also had Stallone and Michael Rooker, who were...
Over the top, right?
No, not over the top. Cliffhanger, which is one of my favorite action movies. You have these guys in this movie. You have Stallone and Rooker in one scene together, and you do not have Stallone and Kurt Russell. And as I'm watching it, I'm like, that's the biggest missed opportunity, is Kurt Russell. Because I liked Kurt Russell a lot. And they completely fucked it up.
His script was so bad. Like, Ego the Living Planet is not a layup character.
No.
There's a lot of weird things going on with Ego the Living Planet. He's Ego the Living Planet.
Yes.
Of course it's going to get fucking weird. The way that they did him was so unsatisfying on every level.
Yeah.
And then you have somebody like Kurt Russell who could give a great performance in that role.
And he gave a great performance for what
they gave him.
Yeah.
But they gave him nothing to work with.
Dog shit.
Everything for me comes back down to those two scenes. Catch. And he's having the moment over killing his mother, killing Star-Lord's mother, and he turns into David Hasselhoff. And I'm just like...
Yeah. You don't need to do that.
You can't do it, can you?
You
can't do it. You can't have an actual pathos-driven moment in this fucking thing. You have to have everything be a fucking joke.
It's got to be goofy.
And everything with the Sovereign was stupid,
so
pointless,
dumb.
and it sets up, quote unquote, sets up Adam Warlock, which now we see what that is.
Yeah, we know
it means
that's
nothing.
A bigger joke.
It means nothing.
But like the part where the leader of the Sovereign shows up on the Ravager planet to offer the job to Yondu. The whole long drawn out them bringing out the path for her to walk on, and then it got stuck.
It gets stuck. It gets folded.
That scene was so infuriatingly long and not funny that I was like, Jesus Christ, I forgot about it. I forgot how bad that was.
That's how I feel about every Drax and Mantis.
Yeah. I mean, we know that's bad.
It's so bad.
That's still as bad as you remember.
It's so awful.
Yeah.
But it's like so much worse if you know the canon.
Yeah.
Because you take these two badass characters and you make them children.
Yeah.
It sucks.
But it's the part, once again, I go back to this. Like, they lay out in that scene between Yondu and Stallone's character how much Stallone, like, the whole reason Yondu got kicked out of the Ravagers is because he went against their code by dealing with children, and you never deal with children, and you could tell that Stallone really hated Ego because he knows what happened to those kids, and it's like, there you go, you have Sylvester Stallone that can go fucking join the fight against Ego and make it into this big Ravager versus Ego thing, instead of just the Guardians of the Galaxy and Yondu fighting the living planet. You could have had the entire Ravager fleet and have that interaction between Kurt Russell and Sylvester Stallone that every fucking fan of any 80s action movie wanted. Because it's like, even Chris Pratt, I remember when he was doing press for it, he goes, we have Tango and Cash in this movie. And it's like, yes, you do. And you're not going to put them in a scene together. It's like watching episode 7 again, and you don't have a scene with Han, Luke, and Leia in one fucking scene together. Yeah. It's like, why put them in the movie if you're not going to have them interact?
If you're not going to actually, if you're going to tempt us with this nostalgia bait,
yes,
why aren't you actually going to do anything with it?
And then when you actually do set them up, when you actually have it set up where one of them dislikes the other one, like, Ego probably doesn't know who Stallone's character is, but Stallone, or he might, you never know. You set it up, and then you do fucking nothing with it.
Well, and isn't Stallone Vance Astro?
Yes.
That's major victory. He is a member of the Guardians of the Galaxy. He is the leader of the original first Guardians of the Galaxy, which we see because they bring in Charlie 27 and Martin X and Yondu is part of that.
What do they do with that?
Nothing
after that.
Fucking nothing. So you have the table set. You can do something with this, and you see only the opportunity to make jokes the entire way through. Everything is a fucking joke.
Yeah.
And this is why I hate Marvel.
And that was the thing, is the one scene that wasn't a joke was that scene between Yondu and Stallone. And it was so well done. Like, it was some of the best acting I've seen Stallone do it forever. But it was serious, and it was dark, and it's like, where's more of that?
Yeah.
Like, not everything has to be so fucking, like, that's why I love Peacemaker. I love Slither. I have a lot of James Gunn love for some of his past movies. I'm terrified for Superman. Because it's like, you can have a lighter tone. Like you watch Superman the movie, the original. It has its lighter moments, but that movie's serious as fucking cancer. Like it's got some serious moments in it.
Yeah.
And it's got some really dark moments in it. And it's like, I don't know if he can do that.
Well, I'm waiting for the 10-minute bit about getting a cat out of a tree. Because James Gunn is going to do a whole bit about doing cats and trees with Superman. But this is my thing, is that welcome to my boat. Here, have some cookies. I have a million things that I can point to that make me be like, I don't know, guys.
I'm so nervous.
I don't think this is going to work. And Peacemaker, for how much I liked it, still had some serious problems. You can have a great scene where they reference Matter Eater Lad. I'm so excited. That's great. There were a lot of touch and go things about the plot where I was just like, what is going on? What's happening? Why is this a thing? And, it was Peacemaker, so you don't take it seriously. Now he's going to do the entire universe. Yeah. You can't have the whole universe be a joke. Yeah. Unless your entire thing is going to be Batmite.
And, I mean, I talk up Peacemaker a lot. Take Vigilante out. Yeah. That show goes down quite a bit. They just happen to have created one of my favorite characters in any live action superhero anything. Yeah. So it's like that kind of coats it in a nice little sheen.
And there's elements of that I really like. I like that his dad has this pocket dimension with no explanation.
Yes.
I love that. That's awesome. That's awesome. Excellent. But just a lot of the stuff with the butterflies and stuff, I was just like, I'm not fully sure I'm getting what you're doing here.
Like I didn't really get the whole alien thing.
Yeah, I know you're doing something, and I know you think you're being really clear on what you're doing. I'm not sure that I'm fully understanding.
It almost seemed like their version of a Skrull type thing, where they're taking
body
over.
Snatcher kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. So, and you have the good one and the bad one.
Exactly.
And,
I'm a good one, but I took over a bad person, so I have his bad impulses.
Exactly. So I don't know. We'll have to see. But so. We're gonna watch Ant-Man tonight, so I'll let you guys know. I mean, listen, I know my son's gonna love it because it is goofy. Yeah, he'll laugh his ass off.
He'll laugh at Louise. He'll love Louise.
Oh, I know. I mean, I'll be honest. I kind of like Louise, but I think he'll laugh at even the fight at the end on the train.
Yeah. With Thomas. Yeah.
So I think he'll like it, but I'll have to check in next week to let you know what the reaction is.
Don't prepare for anything serious because everything's going to be kneecapped to hell.
Oh yeah.
As much as I enjoy the concept of that last fight, the way that they just fully take the drama out over and over and over again for jokes. Where you have Yellow Jacket on the tracks, and he's watching as Thomas is about to run him over, and he's like, "Argh!" And then it cuts to the wide, and it means nothing. And
it's not. And what sucks about watching this phase is I'm not looking forward to seeing any of them over until I get to Infinity War, and that's the sad thing. It's like rewatching the Star Wars movies. I'm like, I just want to get to like Jedi or something that I like. And I have to sit through ones that I don't like. And I'm that way right now. I'm like, we got to watch Ant-Man. And then we got to watch Civil War. We got to watch Doctor Strange. Which Doctor Strange, I like it better than some of the other ones.
Doctor Strange, my issue is a matter of pacing. The issue is that movie should take place beginning in 2008. So the events of the car crash and everything take place simultaneously to Tony being kidnapped and everything. And then the end with Dormammu still takes place in 2016. So he's training for all this time and working and putting in all this effort. And, you have all these other events and maybe they're in the background in some way. But, like, it's about his growth in learning to accept this power.
I wonder if they had it already planned out for that part in Endgame when the Hulk goes to meet the
Ancient One.
The Ancient One. Because it's during the battle in New York.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if they already had that plan, saying this is the timeline, so he has... Because she said Doctor Strange hasn't even...
I still think that's stupid.
Oh, no, I think it's dumb. But I'm wondering if that's why they did the timeline.
And you can still have the Ancient One be alive in 2012.
Yeah.
And it's just that the Ancient One dies in, 2014. And so Stephen Strange is, trying to become the Sorcerer Supreme for, the last few years, and... There's ways to do it that are more interesting than saying, oh yeah, Stephen Strange has a photographic memory. So he never needs to worry about learning anything. He reads it once and he knows it. Well, that's boring as hell. That's dumb
super
as fucking shit. That's so fucking dumb. Way to make it so I don't care.
Yeah. And quick shout out, speaking of Marvel, before we move on, it has been officially announced that Galactus is the villain of Fantastic Four. I'm just curious on how they're going to fuck it up.
Well, the internet's all a storm over Storm.
Well, see, the problem is they announced the casting of
the Silver Surfer.
But it's not the Silver Surfer. It's his wife,
Shayla Bell.
Which they are still going to have the actual Silver Surfer.
Good.
But they didn't come out with that. And it's like...
Well, and they said that Julia Garner was going to be the Silver Surfer.
Yeah, which I think... I don't know if they just put out a bad press release.
Well, so this is what I was talking to Kelly about yesterday while we're on it, is... I don't necessarily have a problem with changing the Silver Surfer's gender. I think that the Silver Surfer as a gender non-conforming character would work really, really well. Mm. My issue is that you're basically using rage as a promotional material, where you're going to do something that you must know people are going to have some kind of strong feelings about. You're inviting animus just for the sake of clicks, and what does it do? Because you already have other characters that are already female that are like the Silver Surfer that would be better suited for this kind of thing.
And I think I do have a problem with them, because she is a character in the MCU, or not MCU, in Marvel. So it's like, it's not like they're creating a character, but create the actual canon Silver Surfer first.
Yeah.
And then introduce her in like a sequel.
Yeah.
But you have female characters that you are constantly fucking up.
Yeah.
How about you do them right first?
Exactly.
It doesn't make sense to me. It's like you can introduce this character. I have no problem with that. But how about you do it in the canon of the comics in the right way? And then it's like, because, the one thing about the second Fantastic Four movie, the OG ones in the 90s, is I really did like how they did the Silver Surfer in the second one. As far as like look and tone and all that, it was a shitty movie, but they did
the Lawrence Fishburne Silver Surfer, right?
Yeah, the
Doug Jones
Silver Surfer. Like physically, they did, and I think CGI wise, they did a good job with it.
Yeah,
and I'm like, why couldn't you have done this in the introduction of Galactus, and then obviously these characters, unless you do the Marvel thing and you kill them off in one fucking movie, they'll be in another movie. Then you can introduce the wife character in the first movie, but then have her like maybe at the end get the powers where they're side by side. It's like, why? It's like you're saying, why are you trying to sell them? Like, once again, it just seems to me like you're trying to take this message and just jamming it down people. It's like, you don't have to.
They corner us being the two of us and people that are like us into these positions where it's like, well, now I don't want to have to argue against casting a woman in this role because that's not my point. But like, now you're making me side with these idiots on the internet because I want something authentic. And instead you're turning it into either a faux message, which isn't authentic. It's just a unearnest, time consuming, here's the lesson. Or you're trying to get bait on the internet.
Yeah.
Of like, oh, if we do this, it's going to get so many clicks, so many things. So everybody's going to care. Everybody's going to be talking about it. And it's
unnecessary.
It's the IHOB.
Yeah.
It's International House of Burgers. It's like,
and there was, I can't remember the actor's name. There's an African-American actor who was up for the role of Silver Surfer, and he thought he was going to be the Silver Surfer, and he saw this press release, and he's like, guess it's not me.
Well, that's what I don't understand, is like, there still seems to be some element to me in this of, oopsie doopsie, we didn't mean to say she was going to be the Silver Surfer, but look at all the traffic we got by saying she was going to be the Silver Surfer. And it's like, you totally knew. You 100% knew the whole fucking time what you were doing. And this isn't damage control or anything. This is, you put out bait, and now you're reeling in.
Yes.
And that's it. That's all this is.
It's like, once again, it's take your actual canonical female characters and
do them well.
Fucking write them better.
Do any single one of them well.
Yeah.
Because I can go down the list and tell you every single one of them has been done badly in one way or another.
Oh, absolutely. Well, the biggest drop ball they have was not having Mighty Thor and Valkyrie as a movie of just the two of them.
Get
would
rid
have
of
been
Chris Hemsworth.
fucking awesome. That would have been $1 billion movie.
We don't need Chris Hemsworth coming back from the Guardians. He can be part of the Guardians for as long as he fucking wants. And we don't need a training montage of Thor getting back into shape, because even though that was the joke in the last one, was that Chris Hemsworth didn't want to be in crazy shape for Thor anymore.
Yeah.
We gotta put a fat suit on him.
You could have had Jane, like, pissed off that he ran off with the Guardians, and once again, he's out of her life, and she finds out she has cancer, and then Mjolnir comes to her, and then Valkyrie shows up saying, since she's on Earth in New Asgard, saying, there was this... Somehow I knew that you got this, or something.
Or like she knows, like Jane knows to go to New Asgard when Mjolnir, chooses her. She's like, I guess I got to go where they know what to do with this and learn from them. But also, then you have the reveal that it's not just Jane turning to us in the middle of the third act and being like, "Oh yeah, the hammer's the only thing that's making it so my cancer's at bay." It's like a whole reveal, and her learning that while she has these superpowers and she can do these great things, it's also something where if she ever gives it up, she's going to die. Yeah. So even if she doesn't want to do it, or if she's not comfortable with it, or it's like a bad fitting shoe, she has to keep working at it, because otherwise she's going to fucking die.
And it's like you had an opportunity.
It was all there, man.
And you fucked it.
Everybody loves Valkyrie. Everybody loves Natalie Portman. Everybody was super psyched to see Mighty Thor. And once again, like so many other opportunities, like the fucking Wasp, like Echo, like Captain Marvel, like Miss Marvel, just another punt. Just another punt, and we're not going to do it. And it's just, why the fuck? Well, then what's the point of this?
But yeah, so I'm waiting to see how they turn Galactus into a cloud for a second time or something like that.
Yeah.
All right, so we got to move on.
Or they make it like I saw recently, I don't know the full context, but Marvel released a trailer for a game that they are coming out with, and it's a Overwatch type game.
Oh, okay.
And you can fill in the blanks. But at the end, they reveal Galactus, but Galactus looks like a Japanese schoolgirl. And I'm just like, and this is because, like, I don't mind Galactus being a woman. It's the fact that you made her an objectively sexy schoolgirl. That's the part that I'm struggling with.
Well, there's people that just don't give a shit.
No,
they just
exactly.
Want to make money. All right. We got to move on. We got two movies to talk about.
Where do you want to start?
We got to start with RoadHouse.
Okay.
Well, these are two very interesting movies.
Polar opposites.
Jesus. All right. So this is I'm using air quotes, remake of the Patrick Swayze, I think it's 1987 or 88, cheesy action classic, RoadHouse. Jake Gyllenhaal stars as a UFC fighter. And there's now it's a female owner of a bar, and it's in the Florida Keys, and it's just called The RoadHouse. Yeah. And she wants him to come down and bounce for it. And like, that's the plot of the fucking movie, pretty much.
Yeah. It's a very straightforward plot.
It is the definition to me of a truly good, bad movie. It is a terribly shot movie.
I didn't think it was terribly shot.
There were some points where I'm like, is this someone got an iPhone and they're just shooting this movie? Mm-hmm. And like some of the editing choices were like, once again, 2024 is the year of bad editing, in my opinion.
See, I thought some of the editing choices thematically were challenging, but I thought that the editing overall was pretty good. I thought that the way that they orchestrated the fights was really interesting.
The fighting was good.
Yeah. The rest of it I found to just be kind of by the numbers.
Absolutely.
I didn't find it to be particularly impressive, but it was very functional.
Were little connections to the Swayze one. Like when he gets cut in the beginning, he gets stabbed in the side, and that's exactly where Swayze got cut when he met the female doctor for the first time. So it's, the nice little things like that. I want to know, Post Malone's agent should get fired. Because he thought, listen, dude, take your shirt off and try fighting. I was laughing so hard, I'm like, I think my daughter could beat up Post Malone. He did not look intimidating at all.
Well, like, my thing was just that he's supposed to be the most intimidating guy there.
Yeah.
And there are guys much taller, much more built, and I'm just like, I don't know.
And when I was laughing out loud when I first saw Post Malone in that movie. I'm like, are you fucking joking?
As a man who feels his titties bounce when I run, it was really funny to see his titties go when he was throwing punches.
But it's like, I mean, there have been movies where there have been street fighters that are obviously not in like great shape. But he's not only not in great shape, he doesn't look like he has any muscle tone whatsoever, even underneath like whatever flabbiness he might have. Well, and then
cut to Monkey Man. In Monkey Man, when we first meet Dev Patel's character, he does underground wrestling as kind of like a way to make ends meet. But he's still in decent shape. He's not in great shape, but you see him with his shirt off, and you're like, okay, he's skinny, but he's got muscle.
Yeah.
And then you see the training montage and he gets ripped and you're like, oh. So if Post Malone is really going out and taking fights every weekend, he probably wouldn't look like that.
And not only taking fights, he's doing the, whoever wants to fight me, I'll fight 10 guys in a night. And it's like, no, you don't. You would be out of breath after one guy. You are in horrible shape.
Yeah. No,
that was horrible.
I did laugh at that.
Oh, that was so bad.
When I saw that, I was like, interesting choice.
I got us. I'm very disappointed in how they treated. Okay, Kelly Lynch in the first movie was obviously just eye candy.
This is the nurse.
The nurse,
yes,
or no, she's the doctor.
Oh, she's the doctor in that one. Okay,
obviously just eye candy. And Kelly Lynch in the first movie was naked half the time, but she still was a more integral character to the story, to where I think they underwrote this character, which is Ellie, Daniela Melchior,
who's in a bunch of shit.
Yeah, they wrote her character down so fucking much.
I still thought that she had a pretty good role to play in the movie.
I mean, she had a role in the story, but if you watch the first movie compared to this, she's not in it very much. And even the love story part of it, it's like you got the cheesy sex scene in the first movie, but at least there was like some passion there. Where here they just like kiss and he has his shirt off and then she drops him off and she's like, all right, I'll see you later. And I'm like, all right.
See, I like their relationship for that reason, where it was just kind of like this weird what's going on here kind of thing, where he wasn't pursuing her, but she seemed to be pursuing him pretty heavily.
She was, but then when they have this scene and it's like, okay, there's a connection, and then it's like, all right, drop him off.
Yeah.
See that? I was like, what the fuck is going on?
No, it's true. It's true. Well, we had to have someone jump him, or he had to get run over, or whatever the fuck happened.
Something. Oh man.
No, that sandbar scene I was taken aback by when it first happened. I was like, what is going on here?
Yeah,
what's happening?
It's just a little weird.
And it took me a solid minute to figure out, like, even the fact that they were on a sandbar. Like, she pulls up in the middle of the ocean, she just jumps out, and it's like, oh, I guess the water isn't that deep. Huh, okay. And then they're sitting on lawn chairs, and I was like, oh, it's a sandbar. Okay.
And then it looks like the boat's just sailing away. You're like, did you dock that? Like, did you put a anchor down? Because that thing looks like it's just going away.
But I think I like this movie more than you. I also haven't seen the original RoadHouse. We were going to go. I was calling it the Ricky Henderson last night, because I was going to go for 4 and try and steal home.
Okay.
And because we had gotten the triple, I was going to try and steal home.
It's everything wrong with old action movies.
I haven't watched it literally because I can't stand Swayze's mullet. Can't stand it. Hate mullets.
He's such a beautiful man.
Hate mullets. Billy Magnuson's mullet in this was worse, but it as Ben Brandt, because he has that look that I've seen a bunch of kids in New York have, where he has the shaved sides, but he didn't shave the back, so it's still long in the back and it goes down to his neck, and so he just has this like weird, terrible.
It was douchey.
Comb over mohawk. Every part of it just looks bad.
See, and this is the biggest separation from the two movies, and I give Jake Gyllenhaal, like, I'll be honest, I did really like Jake Gyllenhaal. I loved Conor McGregor. I'm not gonna lie.
Conor McGregor,
he was so over the top.
Came in and showed that, like,
dude.
I saw him and I was like, Bullseye.
Yeah.
I didn't know he was Bullseye. Did anybody know he was Bullseye?
Yeah. But it's like I could see the director just going, "Be yourself," ramped up to 11.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Got it."
Do all the things.
He was so on point.
Be yourself, but with even less filters.
Oh my god! It was like he was definitely my favorite.
Like right down to the weird swaggery walk.
Oh, the swaggery walk was so good.
It was just so weird. Where
especially
he's holding his arms out like a gorilla. And it's just like, what is happening?
It's so fucking awesome.
The only thing about that introduction scene that I didn't understand is why is he running away and not kicking the shit out of the husband? Because we meet him as he's leaving, having slept with somebody's wife or girlfriend or something, and you have the male has a gun and is chasing him out. I'm just like, everything we learn about this character from here on out is he would kick the shit out of that guy and go back to fucking his girlfriend. Yeah. And that's not what happens.
But see, to me, I read it as he was done having sex with her, so he's just like, well, fucking leave it. I'm going to go burn down this bazaar.
It's true.
But the big what I was getting at before, the big difference between the two movies is Patrick Swayze is the cliched, masculine, pain don't hurt is like his catchphrase in that movie. Like, he is this guy. Where Jake Gyllenhaal is a tough guy, but he's not like a masculine douchebag.
No, well, very pointedly, his character is very reserved. They compare him to a cowboy.
Yes, which I like that comparison.
There were a lot of airs of like Shane and other cowboy movies, and right down to the end where he has to leave town. And I was just like, I like this.
Which I like that better because, spoiler. In the original RoadHouse, it has a little bit of a happier ending where he sticks around and everyone welcomes him. Where this, he's like, I gotta go. And I did like that.
And they told us the entire way through. They were like, he's a cowboy. Yeah. He's here to solve the town's problem and go on. And that's what he does. He teaches the town to protect themselves with Billy and the other guy. I can't remember the other guy's name. But they...
Knox?
Reef. The other bouncer. So you have Billy and Reef are the two bouncers that he takes on. I thought one of them was going to get killed by Conor McGregor.
I thought so too.
Jake Gyllenhaal, there were a few moments. It's not a complaint or a critique. It was just one of those things of like, okay, I've used this phrase before on a lot of other things in a negative way, so I have to associate it here too. You gonna do anything about this? Where Jake Gyllenhaal has just been hired as the bouncer for this place, and people are like just getting in fights. And he's just sitting at the bar, enjoying his Mai Tai, his coffee, whatever he's having at that particular moment.
Well, see, that's one of those little connections to the first movie. Because when Swayze shows up to the RoadHouse for the first time, he orders coffee, and he sits there while everyone beats the shit out of each other because he's kind of gauging what he's getting himself into. So it's that, and you're going to see some of those mirrors when you watch the actual RoadHouse. You're going to be like, oh, okay, now, because they wanted to kind of connect it.
Yeah.
Which I kind of wish they would have, when you brought up Reef, I liked his character. They didn't
do anything with him.
All of a sudden, he's just like, oh, hey, Reef. It's like, well, who the fuck is Reef?
Who's this guy? And he's like, you want to work at the RoadHouse? And Reef's like, yeah. And
then he's just beating the shit out of people.
I'm like, okay, this is interesting. I didn't have a problem with it, but again, it's just time not spent on an interesting character that I would have liked to have seen more.
It was a 2-hour fucking movie. Yeah. So, like, you could have done that.
And, like, even times where they do spend time with these characters that they don't associate hard with in terms of their backstory or what's going on with them, you'll have scenes where Reef and Billy are breaking up fights. And once again, I'm left kind of sitting there like, so what does Dalton do? Is he just the big dog that kind of sits at the back, and if things get really, really rowdy, then he'll start? But when Conor McGregor shows up and trashes the place, he's still just sitting back there like, okay, I'm going to finish my coffee. All right. Okay, if I really got to get up, I guess okay, all right. Yeah. And I was just like, dude, why are you letting this happen, man?
I don't know.
And so, like, there were a few moments like that there where similar with Ellie's relationship with him, where it's just like, oh, this is happening very fast, and I guess he's just going to let it happen. Or the crux of the story, where he is a ex-UFC fighter because he killed somebody in the ring, and they keep saying that it's his friend. They never go into any of that.
Exactly.
They never spend any time on any of that.
And if they would have, it would have made more sense of why he didn't get involved in some of those fights. Because then you're like, he thinks he'll kill somebody.
Exactly.
And he doesn't want to do it.
He knows how far he can go.
Yeah.
But that's the other thing, is that it's like he has this tiger in a cage. And for the most part, he can take care of his business, but every once in a while, he has to let the tiger out of the cage. And he doesn't like doing that. So he doesn't want to get into a situation where he has to feel like he needs to let the tiger out. Get it. Got it. Good. Why, if you're still so adept at being able to just slap the snot out of people, why are you letting some of this shit happen?
I don't get it either.
Like, there are just moments where you should be doing something.
And, like, to me, that was a major underwhelming moment when he sees the shop burn down.
Yeah.
And he says, you set me off or whatever. Did they? Like, it was kind of like...
See, I like that cool, like...
I liked it,
I'm
too.
angry now. This is me
angry.
But
they didn't really show him that angry after that. It's like, he kicked the guy out of the boat and the alligator ate him, and then he put some bombs together. And
also, where did he get those bombs?
I don't know either.
Those bombs, I think Knox had the bombs
Knox
at one
had them,
point.
but didn't he go to that house? And I think he grabbed them, but they didn't show him grabbing them.
Or like there was a transition point.
Yeah.
We saw the dynamite in someone else's possession, and then all of a sudden Dalton has the dynamite.
See, and that's what I'm talking about with some editing issues. Like I had quite a few. I don't quite remember them all, but I remember watching the movie saying, it's fucking really noticeable that it didn't make sense.
Yeah.
And it's like, I wish they could have just tightened it up a little bit. I'm wondering once again if this is just, they knew it was going to be a direct to Amazon. Well, I think the director didn't know at first and was really kind of pissed that it went direct to Amazon. But they didn't, it seems like anything that goes direct to a streaming service, they don't really edit it down properly. Because they're like, well, it's not in a theater, so we make it as long as we
let it be.
Want.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know if you needed to.
It just needed to be, the story needed to be cleaned up a little bit. Yeah. I still like this movie. I would give it a B. It's not amazing, but I agree with you. It's a fun action movie. You know, in that way of like, have a few, sit back, you're just going to enjoy it, and you're not going to worry about any of the details because the characters don't worry about the details, so how can you worry about the details?
See, I can't give it a grade. I've realized when there are movies like this that I consider terrible movies, but are still good because they're stupid fun to watch, I don't really want to grade it because I'm like, if I'm grading it just as a cinema experience as far as like technically, I would give it a low grade. But then Conor McGregor struts in, and I'm like, God damn it! I gotta give it. I can't not like this movie.
Give it a Z for zany.
Yes, and it was like there were moments that I truly loved, and there were moments where I'm like, fuck, I really don't like it. And I think once again, I'm wondering I'm wondering how you're going to look at it now that you're seeing them in opposite order. Because like the biggest complaints I've heard are from people who have watched the original and loved it for what it was. And then watch this, and we're like, I don't quite get... Because you get a little more character study. I don't even want to use that word technically for a shitty 80s action movie. But you get a little more characterization in the original RoadHouse than you get in this.
See, I think that he had plenty of character.
No, I'm not talking him. I'm talking like side characters.
Oh, okay.
And like even the two in the... what was it? Like a bookshop?
Yeah.
In the first movie, it's the doctor's uncle who runs an auto parts store, and you get to know him a little more because he's his love interest's uncle, and so when it burns down, it's a little more important because he has more interactions with him in the movie, and you get to know the character a little more, and you know the connection a little more. To where these two people are just two people he meets when he gets off the bus.
But I like them a lot. That was the thing.
I don't dislike them.
They won my heart. So when bad things happen to them, I very much identified with Dalton, Jake Gyllenhaal's character, in the way of like, oh shit, this is now you done it. Now you gone and done it. I literally said, and I was going out of town. I was leaving. And then he has the whole, I was leaving. I was gone. And I was like, exactly.
I did like that part where he's like, why the fuck?
What the hell, man?
What are you doing?
I was going to go. And then you had to go and do something that made it so I can't leave now.
And see, they did humor right in this movie with not only Connor, but like the first fight scene he has at the RoadHouse where he beats up the guys and then he has to drive them to the hospital.
I love Jessica Williams in the movie, but in that scene especially, where he's like, how far is the nearest hospital? And she's like, I'm not telling you. It's not. I don't care about that.
Yeah.
He's like, can I borrow your car? And she's like, sure, but not for them. And just like all of these, like, fuck. I did want to see, I think, again, something that was cut is she runs after Brandt, when he comes in and intimidates Dalton, and
they don't really explain.
They don't say what happened at the end of that scene. Yeah. They just show her running after him and shouting at him, and then during the credits, you see something that I think was cut from that sequence of her getting in his window and doing something, but we don't see it, and then she just comes back later on in the night. And
they play off their relationship as more than just he's the mustache twirling bad guy who wants to take her land. To they had some kind of personal relationship is what it seemed like.
They were friends at some point.
Either friends or they had like some hookup or something. They were something more than just this little back and forth they were doing. And I wish they would have Because like you said, she chased after him. I'm like, oh, she knows him. And then she says to Dalton is, yeah, he just was trying to take my land. And it's like, well, what the fuck?
And she plays dumb a little too much at times.
Yeah.
Where there seems to be this mystery brewing. And she's just like, oh, yeah, I don't know why he wants my land. And it's like, you know.
Yeah.
You know. Why are you saying you don't know when you definitely know?
And I'll be honest, like the original movie, you just have this old guy who is running everything. And he's the one trying to take the land, and it's simple. Here you have the son with the dad in the prison, and you're like, okay, well, who the fuck's the dad? He's this businessman, but why is he in prison?
Yeah.
Like, what is his connection? How does he know Knox? And it's like, you didn't need to introduce that when you could have just, instead of picked this young guy, maybe picked a guy a little older who it's actually him financially behind this saying, I've made some bad decisions. I'm kind of financially in ruins. Instead of this kid's, his dad's in jail and he's his dad's money. And,
yeah. Because that's what they say, is that they get on the boat and Mo, who is the dumb henchman, who always says the right thing, and everybody looks.
He's the one
like,
who has the broken arm.
I love Mo.
I love him
Mo
so much.
There were so many moments where I was like, "Hey Mo,
yeah,
you really got to get out of here, my dude. Like this is not where you want to be."
He's the one that tells him the hospital's
I love the moment when he's like, "Man, I just wanted to ride motorcycles, and you can't really do that in South Florida unless you have a group of guys that you're doing it with."
Yeah.
And I thought these guys were cool. I didn't know that this was going to be a thing. I like that when they get on the boat. At one point, he's like, Mo's like, oh, this is such a big boat. It's so nice, blah, blah, blah. It must cost a lot of money. And Ben Brandt is like, yeah, it's my dad's, like everything else that I own, including his debts. And I was like, that's interesting. That's really interesting. And then you get to the end of the movie and he's like, I need that money. Like, I need that money. And you're just like, oh, interesting. There does seem to be something else going on in the periphery of all of this. And
I don't know. I mean, I'm interested for you to see the original.
Yeah.
Just so you can get that comparison that you need. Because, like I said, I think you're going to be surprised by some of the scenes that they did really pull. And that was kind of neat, the way they did that.
Yeah. My last note on this is no throat rip. No throat rip.
No throat rip.
No throat rip.
It's like
the most iconic thing about the original. Yeah. No throat rip.
No throat rip.
So I'm not going to get into it because I don't care enough. I haven't seen the original. I don't have stakes.
I will give it credit. Something criticism I'm going to have for the last movie we talked about. The original one, I saw it when I was a kid. It's full of boobs, and so I was madly in love with it because of it. In my age now, I'm starting to understand the not necessity
of seeing boobs,
of having nudity when you don't need it.
Yeah.
And so the fact that the only nudity in this is Conor McGregor's butt.
Yeah.
It's like, that was funny for that scene.
Twice. We get to see his butt twice.
Yeah, you get to see it twice. But really, that first one was...
Yeah, that was the meat one.
That's that was funny, though. And that's a necessity for that scene because it really introduces that character where he's like, I'm naked and I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
But it's like... That kind of, I was like, I'm glad they didn't just have gratuitous boobs and all that. If I want boobs, I can go look on the internet now. I don't need to naturally have it in a narrative of a movie. So I do give them credit for that.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Now we got to move on to Poor Things.
Yes. Introducing or reintroducing my lovely wife, Kelly. Hello. Who will be joining us.
Since the Lord of the Rings.
Since the Rings episode.
The TV show.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
It's been a while. So Kelly is back because... neither of us are women.
No.
And I feel like with Poor Things, it's important to have a female perspective.
Heck yeah.
Yes.
So we're going to talk about Poor Things. Okay. And not just the sexy parts.
There's not much more then, because that's 90% of the movie.
Well, I'm thinking of the goose with the dog head.
Stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a movie.
It was a movie.
It was interesting.
Yeah.
Like, it's... Okay, so for those of you who are unaware, Poor Things was the, let's call it, if Oppenheimer was the Oscar no-brainer, this was the Oscar darling.
Yeah.
This was like the award show movie that everyone's like, it's an indie film, it's out there in many ways.
I immediately get why, because honestly, I like this more than Oppenheimer.
But also, a lot of people involved have won Oscars for other stuff.
Yes.
Or been nominated at various points. Yes. It has a little more complication in terms of like the world building than a biopic.
Yeah.
Where they have to kind of show you how the world works and what the rules are and how things are laid out.
Yeah. So this movie I would put in the vein of movies like The Lighthouse, The Witch. Like, it's an indie film.
Yeah.
It's
The Favorite from a few years ago.
Yeah, which is also yours.
Same director.
Yeah. And I even had vibes of The Adventures of Baron Munchausen when I was watching it, because it has a lot of that, especially like the boat and the scene where she's riding the fish and all that. It's like some of those graphics are right out of a Terry Gilliam movie.
Yeah.
And so
definitely.
that's why, like, I saw Gilliam as definitely someone that they drew inspiration from for the visuals for this movie.
Definitely.
Because it was...
There's a lot of surrealism. A lot of surrealism.
My God.
Yeah.
At first I'm watching it like, I don't know what the fuck I'm watching.
Yeah.
Like, it was...
It was a lot.
It was a lot.
It was
especially
a lot.
when you first understand what Willem Dafoe's character does to create her. I was like, holy shit.
I remember them intimating that from the trailer. But when he says it, I was like, Jesus Christ.
Well, see, I don't remember that from the trailer. I remember them mentioning that this is like a Bride of Frankenstein type movie, which it kind of is.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But I didn't quite understand the whole... And folks, spoilers. I mean, it's been out for a while now. It's going to have spoilers in here. Taking her baby's brain and putting it in her head. I was like, I did not see that coming.
It was very intense.
Like,
Yeah.
holy fuck.
Yeah, it was definitely like a moment of like, Jesus Christ.
That's exactly what I said.
Jesus Christ.
The thing it shares with Oppenheimer is did we ever stop to ask why
If
before
we should.
doing it? Yeah, whether we should.
Yes. Thank you. Yes.
Nobody stopped and said, is this a good idea? It was merely, I have an opportunity, so I have to do it.
For science.
Now, I'm going to make a comparison.
Sure.
You two may have not seen these movies.
Okay.
Lars von Trier, Nymphomaniac.
I haven't seen Nymphomaniac, but I have seen Melancholia, and I have seen
Antichrist?
Antichrist.
Okay, that's a fucked up one. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, Lars von Trier is a very out there director.
Out there is a nice way of putting it.
Yes.
Some might say borderline problematic, abusive.
I wouldn't even say borderline. I would say definitely problematic
Yeah.
and abusive. But Nymphomaniac is far more graphic. But when I say far more, I actually don't mean that much more graphic sexually than this movie is, because this movie does push that envelope.
There's a lot of sex in this movie.
It's like graphic.
Yeah.
But Nymphomaniac is a very avant-garde indie film about a woman finding her sexuality.
Yeah.
And then dealing with the repercussions. I got a lot of those vibes from her character in this, because I don't know how I quite felt about them taking that tone with it, because I liked the parts of her finding her intellectual capacity more than her sexual. Like, I think they pushed the sexuality way too far.
See, I think the sexuality thing was really interesting, and I'll leave most of this to you. I think that was interesting because that's something that traditionally women aren't allowed to explore. And so this idea...
I'm not saying I don't find the sexuality interesting. I think they did it too much.
But I think that was kind of the point,
Yeah.
was that you have this person who has no experience in anything, and one of the first things that they discover is sex. And they are allowed to go out and explore and learn for themselves, and they're a naturally curious individual who is scientifically minded, so everything, even sex, comes down to making notes and figuring out the best way to... Like, I love the scene where she's in the brothel later on, and she has a few suggestions to make it more pleasurable for everybody, and the mistress is like, that's not what we're here for. We're here for the 30 francs, and that's it. And she just fully ignores that. She's like, fuck that. And the next guy that comes up, she's like, okay, before we start, I got a few questions. You tell me something, and then I'll tell you something. And I was just like, I really like this. I like the progression of this character learning and growing.
But see, that's the thing, especially when I did enjoy the brothel scene, but I enjoyed it for a different reason. I don't see that as her, like, learning to help her sexually. I saw it as her getting off more by learning, and that ended up helping her sexually.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, I think it was that for everybody involved. I think it was her having grown so much that she could look at how sex was being done by and large and say, well, but this isn't this isn't right. This isn't the best way to do this. I know how to do this better. And
She went about it very scientifically.
this is what I'm saying, is that right down to the point that when she's feeling depressed and homesick, she goes to a surgery so she can just cut open corpses and kind of look around in them. But that's what I'm saying, is that she is this scientifically minded individual who is always looking at things and like taking them apart and putting them back together. It's Reed Richards as Gwen Stacy. It's just constantly taking things apart and putting them back together and seeing the world in a way that no one else does, which some people find enamoring, some people find frightening, some people find endearing, some people are in love with, and then horrified by. But the movie as a whole was just so interesting, the way that it wove and created, like how it begins in black and white, and another classic art film thing, and then transitions into color. But even when we go back to the house from the beginning, it's in color still. Once the color hits, it's in there. Once she goes out into the world, there's no going back.
Yeah. One of the themes that we talked about after watching it is something that I got very strongly from it, is this idea of nature versus nurture as you get older and as you mature and as you learn about the world. Because again, spoilers, at the beginning, when she's kind of in her like toddler mindset phase, because
she literally has a toddler's mind.
Yeah.
I mean, oh yeah, but there's like the whole thing where she really wants to stab stuff and like hurt stuff, and that very like,
we only stab dead things.
The masochism sort of thing. And then at the end of the movie, when, spoiler alert, she meets
her husband father?
Her husband father?
Victoria's husband.
Yes.
Yeah.
But not... What was her...
it's the...
Bella. Not Bella's husband.
Not
Victoria's husband.
Yeah.
Victoria's husband and
Bella's dad.
Yeah. Which is so fucking weird.
But they kind of show that her biological father is also super violent.
Yeah.
And she kind of looks at him like, what is wrong with you?
Because it's violence without a purpose.
Yeah. And like, as a toddler, like, that was something that was in her, I guess.
Exciting and attractive and fun.
But because of the way she was brought up by Willem Dafoe and the other guy,
Rami Youssef.
Yeah, she much more had that scientific curiosity and like, there's a way to do these kinds of things. And the way she goes about disposing of said man is very methodical and
very methodical and scientific.
And
But what I found interesting is was it Gerald was the husband? Or no, what was the name of the general?
It was the general, Alfie.
It wasn't just Alfie who was violent, though, because Alfie had said Victoria,
she was also
violent. She killed herself because she hated the baby growing inside of her.
Yeah.
And it's like, so not only was it her father, but it was also her mother that were psychopaths.
Yeah.
And it's like, that was an interesting
It was very interesting.
Twist.
It was very interesting. I just love the dialogue and the characterization of the people in this movie, where I'm thinking of the people on the boat, where she walks up and is like, when was the last time you had sex with a man? And the old woman's like, oh, nobody wants to have sex with me. And she's like, oh, that's terrible. Oh, that's awful. Tell me you masturbate. And she's like, of course I masturbate. And she's like, oh, I'm so glad.
My heart is glad.
And I was just like, I love this. This is so funny. And then when she gets too cozy with them and Mark Ruffalo decides that he's going to kill the old woman to prove a point. And he goes up to her and Bella's just like, this is going to be fun. And then the old woman's like, oh no, I'm being murdered. And it's just like, I love this.
That scene, the entire boat scene is my favorite part of that movie.
Yeah.
Because that to me is where you got the most character growth in Bella. Because you really took her from this sexual being that doesn't really know much other than Mark Ruffalo and her father, to she meets these people and she learns philosophy and she sees Alexandria, all the poor people, and the growth that happens on that boat, I loved. Especially the Ruffalo character, because he disintegrates where she grows. He goes down into this madness, and it's like, that was awesome.
Go ahead.
If we're looking at this as, kind of looking at the stages of life, it's almost very much her puberty, because she learns of the horrors of the world.
Yeah. her brain turns on.
Yeah.
And she's like, wait a minute. But it even goes down to that way that Mark Ruffalo's character is like, oh, you don't even have your cute way of talking anymore. Like, even her speech patterns change.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I love that at the beginning they give us that clue where Rami Youssef is like, yeah, she's learning 15 words a day on average.
Yeah.
And it's just like, okay, all right. So she goes fast. That brain grow big fast.
And
big fast.
what I appreciated though on that, and I'm trying not to stick to my dislike for the amount of sex in this movie.
Ooh, I want to talk about that.
The part on the boat, the part I liked most about it is that's where I said I think she got the most growth, because it was intellectually. You didn't have her, like when she had that scene with Harry in his room, I'm like, she gonna fuck him? And then they don't. It's just her friend, and he's trying to, like, you have her friend, the older woman, who's like pushing philosophy, and then you have her other friend who's just pushing reality of the world on her.
Realism,
exactly. Yeah. And I love how they didn't, like, that was the only part of the movie where she didn't use her sexuality, and she truly was like, I am learning, like you said, through her puberty, but it was a non-sexual puberty. Like, she was like, I'm learning about the reality of the world, not attached, because she doesn't even have sex with Mark Ruffalo when they're on the boat, because there's always, he's either drunk or she's doing something else. All of that's gone.
Yeah.
And it's just her brain. And that's why you can see her speech pattern growing from that boat scene, because she really is growing just mentally.
Well, and like the way that he traps her on the boat. They have this whole time where she gets in Portugal, and she's having a great time, and then he traps her on the boat, and she's like, well, this is not what I wanted, and I'm not just gonna be your plaything.
Fight fire with fire.
And yeah, she goes off and does whatever the hell she wants, because that's who she is. I really did just love the ebb and flow of the movie. I think the only thing that took it away from me was when they try and recreate the unrecreatable experiment. That was they tell us at the beginning, this is a once-in-a-lifetime experiment. I found this woman who had died recently. Her baby was grown enough that I could extract the brain and install it in the adult. I know, when you put it down, it sucks. But they keep on telling us, like, we're never going to get another chance like this. Oh, but wait, we're fully going to get another chance at this.
And they don't really explain with was it Felicity
or Margaret Qualley. Felicity.
Felicity. They don't really explain if it's the similar thing, if it was a baby's brain.
Yeah.
It's just like, did you take another brain and put it in her? Was she dead? Like,
what was the context of any of this?
There was no context.
And we don't learn.
She just shows up.
But like the thing
is, what blood is she playing with writing on the wall? Was it her blood? Was it somebody else's?
Like none of that is explained, and it doesn't add anything to the plot.
No.
But it does take away from what we're trying to accomplish. So it becomes like this bit where it's mostly for Willem Dafoe and Rami Youssef's characters, because they miss her. So, like, you know, there's things that we can take apart psychologically there too. But ultimately, I'm like, this doesn't serve the story in any way. This doesn't do anything to make me care about the story in any greater way.
To me, the only thing it really did is it really solidified how much Mrs. Prim hated
Bella.
Bella. Because where she goes, I like this one better than you, and then she smacks her hand with the hammer, and it's like, that was funny.
Yeah.
But that was the only part.
Yeah.
And like at the end when she says, go get water, and they make it out to be this thing, and it's like, I don't understand. What the point of having...
I don't get that character. I don't understand them.
I think if they would have had them try and fail, it would have been more to say we've tried.
We tried over and over and over again. We can't recreate
exactly.
It's one of those things where I hope that's something that was from the source material, which is why they included it. Because if it was just something they decided to include, that was a waste of time.
Exactly.
To your point about the high presence of sex in this movie, and this is something I did a lot of research on when I was in college, getting my degree in arts management.
Major.
Yeah. I did a lot of research on the presence of sex in the media and censorship and all that other good stuff. But also nowadays we have intimacy coordinators. It's like a whole job now. There are, college courses that teach, students in the performing arts about consent when they're doing their thing. And the thing I always come back to when people... And this is nothing against you, Steve, but when people are like, oh, I don't like how much sex there was in this, and it was a lot. There are so many movies with gratuitous violence. And I don't know how we got to this point where we're so okay with seeing such horrible, mutilating things happen to a body, but the moment we talk about explicit sex, which I feel is a much more natural thing than wanting to kill and maim each other, it's like, I get why we have that mindset, and a lot of it is religion. But at the same time, it's like, why are you so much more okay with violence, just casually, oh, haha, that person got hurt, which is so present. Like, even with RoadHouse, we were having a great time watching people punch each other.
Yeah, kick the shit out of each other.
And I feel like it's so much, for whatever reason, it's so much more common to be like, okay with taking in violent media as something to be pleasureful. But the moment it's sex, it's like,
oh, that's definitely true.
Oh, so much.
Yeah.
No, and I'll be honest.
My poor eyes. I can't watch this.
This is something I've noticed with age in my taste of film, is when I was growing up, the more nudity and the more violence I was more than happy with. But now it's a time and place for both. And there's also, it gets to a point with both with me. Like, I'll watch horror movies that I know 20 years ago I would have loved. And I'm like, man, there's too much fucking violence in this.
Yeah.
And I'm noticing that I'm understanding more from, and I can, like you said, I can understand narratively where they're coming from with having the sex in this. And like you're saying, with her awakening sexually and whatnot. Sometimes I think it can get too much.
It becomes overwhelming a little bit.
It's another sex scene. It's like there was pretty much 75% of this film has gratuitous sex.
But I kind of like that. I not in the I like it. But like in the way that it serves the story, I think is very.
But like the scenes in the brothel.
Yeah.
I appreciated the lesbian scene because it showed the connection between these two, which you get at the end also.
Yeah.
Her and I can't remember
when
the
they're
actress's name.
companions at the end.
Exactly. And it's like, oh, so she had her come because obviously it's more than just a friendship potentially. Like they actually love each other. And so who knows if she's going to end up marrying what's his nuts.
Susie Bemba is the name of the actress.
Yeah, who knows if she'll end up marrying Max. She wants to, but then the relationship is whatever. And also her with, God, I want to say Mrs. Flick or whatever the name was.
Oh, the name of the mistress.
The mistress, but she was the woman from, what was it, the Harry Potter movie. She's the one that comes when the Dementors attack Harry.
Yes,
that's her.
Mrs. Glick.
Mrs. Glick. So seeing her like in the little halter with the tattoos, I'm like, this is weird, man.
Yeah.
Mrs. Glick. But like that scene, that interaction, also I liked a lot. But like the scenes where she's asking the questions of the guys, to me didn't necessarily need the fucking afterwards. You know what I mean? It's like you can kind of assume that's what they do. Or like have some sounds or like do a brief thing, but it's just like, to me, that's where it got gratuitous. It's like you didn't necessarily need the man on her interaction sexually. Because I could see the female in her interaction sexually as that growth. Like she had the Mark Ruffalo every other scene just banging the hell out of her. And then her moving on to like, oh, did they end up showing? No. So like the scene I appreciated where she had sex with the guy in Spain, which pissed off Ruffalo, but you didn't see it. Her just saying, I have that tattoos and I tried them. And I said, and it's like, that was like, that to me, you still got the point across without necessarily, and once again, I could be completely off with my take on this. It's just, when I watch something violence or sex, if it gets to a point where I'm like, God damn, this seems like a lot. It just, I have that natural thing now where I'm like, I think narratively you could have done it.
Yeah.
It seems to me to a point where it becomes almost unnecessary. You know what I mean? Not necessarily to the story, but just like, I think there are other ways you could do it, and it seemed like the easy way out of like, just put her against the wall and have this guy he smells and she bangs him and all. You know, it's like little things like that. I don't, once again, this is just my take on it. I could be off right or wrong.
You know what I think it might be? is, and this seems to be kind of the style of this director, Yorgos, whatever his last name
He
is.
did The Lobster with Colin Farrell.
He has this tendency to, like, as soon as you're finally, like, getting into a scene, even if it's not, like, even if the content of the scene is uncomfortable, like there's tension or whatever, he'll make a hard left turn into something really grotesque. And sometimes that happens with some of the sex scenes, even some of the ones that, like, you know, it's like the super ugly guys that are in the brothel, and then we'll hard pivot to something even more disgusting,
like surgery or something.
And that's something I as much as I love this kind of movie where, you know, the sex is a little more explicit compared to most other movies, I hate how grotesque and uncomfortable some of those moments are. And it's right after some of those sex scenes. Like, why?
See,
I was having a good time.
I go back to when when Bella is yelling at Mark Ruffalo's character in the street because he's following her around, and she's going with her partner to this socialist lecture.
Yes.
And he's accusing her of being a whore and all these other things, and she just turns to him and says, "We are our own means of production."
Yeah.
And I think
oldest job.
Oh, that was great.
I think that there's a lot of... I think the reason that they have so many sex scenes is to show not her having sex, but how she reacts to all these different people coming through. The one that I think of the most is the dad who is teaching his sons how to be good at sex.
That was right out of Monty Python. Did you ever see what was the last movie they made? And now for something completely different.
I haven't, no.
There's a scene where John Cleese is an instructor at a school, and he has his wife come in to have sex with her in front of the students to teach them about sex ed. And it's like, that reminded me so much of that scene. I was like, that's like John Cleese.
Well, that's what I loved about it, is that she is sitting there and she speaks French, so she's listening to this guy give instructions to his sons, and he's having trouble
helping.
He's having trouble finishing, and she's like, "Oh, I know how to make that happen."
Finger in the butt or choking.
Or choking a little bit.
But like, to me, that I could appreciate, because it was, I don't know, I don't even know where I would cut the sex. Like, that's the weird part about my take.
Yeah.
I don't even know where I would cut it. Maybe the creepy dude crawling like a spider towards her freaked me out a little bit, fucking watching it at 1 a.m.
Yeah.
There was the one guy in the brothel that was like, had the weird eyes. I was like...
That's what I mean about
that was fucking
just
weird.
The hard left turn. And it's like, I'm glad we're including this because everybody uses this service.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, it's distracting me from the point.
It pendulums from the beautiful to the grotesque really hard,
and like it makes
with
it
purpose.
realistic. There's purpose. And,
not just for shock value like a lot of horror movies, but with an actual narrative purpose.
But the scene with the father and his two kids, I love how almost hyper consensual it is. Because he is like explaining everything before he does it, and she has every opportunity to like change what they're doing. And
she also is aware of what the context of this whole expedition is.
And she's totally down for it. Like, yeah, sure.
Because she's a scientist.
Yeah.
And ultimately that's what she's most interested in.
She can appreciate the position of the poor kids who are probably embarrassed to hell.
Yeah.
But
learning. All of this is in the effort of learning.
Yeah. And I know
they'll probably be more prepared than their peers.
Yeah. This is going to be a far left turn on a little bit of the movie that I got from a different movie. Did you ever see Mallrats?
Oh, I love Mallrats.
Do you remember the female character that was having sex with all the guys and then writing a book?
Yeah.
I got a lot of that with this. Like, she was having sex with these guys, but she was doing it intellectually, like she was writing a book in her head. Like, I got to do this.
Like, I'm going back to that. She has the legend that tells, like, this is if I was on top. This is if he was on top. This is if I came.
Yes.
This is if he came. This is if we both came. This is if we were in this position. And like she has
I got a lot of vibes of that when I was watching this. I was like,
but she wins. She wins she's like at the top of the New York Times bestseller list or something
crazy like that. But it was I think we got to talk about the Willem Dafoe gas.
That is weird. All of the Willem Dafoe stuff is weird. Because like the whole, because going back to your whole argument with nature versus nurture, that whole idea that we keep on learning about his dad, and his dad is like an actual monster.
But see, I like that
monster.
part, though.
He is as much a Frankenstein as Bella.
Exactly.
As Bella.
He is the Frankenstein's monster, but he never was dead. He was just built that way by his dad.
His dad just dissected him while he was alive over and over and over again.
God.
And just like all of these, when he's talking about why he has the thumbscrew scars and how he got through it by just examining his own skin. And just like, it was so weird, but at the same time, he's such a paternal and welcoming figure. He's like one of the nicest dads you'll ever see in a movie. And it's just so strange.
I also love how they did say where Max is like, didn't you ever want to have sex with her? He's like, of course I did, but I'm a eunuch. I can't do it. And it's like that. I was appreciating that because he was this loving father figure, but it's because he had to be a loving father figure. He couldn't do anything else with her. And that to me was like, I'm glad they put that in there because it shows he is still a guy and he does see the beauty in her, but he has to only see the beauty on the inside. He can't see the physical beauty. Sexually.
I love what really sets this apart from, like his dad did this to him, he's gonna do it to her, and he treats it more of that paternal father-daughter relationship as opposed to what maybe similar situations might be like for this, where like, like I brought you back to life and stuff. It's not that artist piece of art, I have to put you on this pedestal.
I created you, so you must always be the thing.
You have to be exactly what I want you to be. He's very much of the wind up. I'm gonna crank up this wind up toy and let it do its thing. If she wants to go out into the world, she's gonna go out into the world.
Well, in his whole argument and reconciling of it. Of saying, what are my options? I can let her go and have her be happy, or I can make her stay and have her hate me. So I'm going to let her go because I'd rather have her go and be happy than have her hate me forever.
And he knows what kind of person Duncan is. And that's the best. Mark Ruffalo was fucking awesome.
He had such a weird up and down roller coaster of a ride in this movie.
Good.
There are so many moments where I'm like, why did we
cast Mark Ruffalo?
Why did we get him?
Why did we get Mark Ruffalo for this role?
He turns, if you look at him, he kind of turns into Renfield.
A little bit,
At the end of this movie, because he turns into kind of a nut. And he's weird. He's ripping his hair out.
He got too deep, but now
he can't get out.
He's like shit.
No, and that was something that really did genuinely shock me, was that we're going to Bella and Max's wedding, and they're in the church, and everybody is dressed up, and everything is going great, and all of a sudden, Duncan shows up, Mark Ruffalo, and he's like,
Alfred
I found your husband.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I thought the movie was over.
Yeah.
No, there's 20 more minutes. There's an act 4 to this whole fucking shit.
We get this lovely surprise act 4, and like when you and I were watching it, and we get to that point, and Bella's like, no, like we're gonna pause everything.
I'm gonna go with him.
I'm gonna go with him. And both of us are like, what are you doing?
What do you mean you're gonna go with him?
Yeah, and obviously we get why, is because she wants to find out.
It's scientific curiosity.
Yeah, like, if this is my origin, I might as well get the whole picture.
I need to know why I killed myself.
But holy moly, that's
I'll be
such
honest,
a gamble.
I thought they were going to put Godwin's brain in him.
Oh, that would have been weird. That would have been a weird turn.
Godwin did it to her, and she doesn't want him to die, so I thought they were going to take his brain and put it in him.
Yeah.
They put a goat brain, which, what are you going to do?
I think that they respect death too much to do that.
Yeah, I think even Bella could see, like, he was not... the quality of life was not there anymore. So the most humane thing is to just let
Godwin go.
Let him
but
do
see,
his
on
thing.
the opposite with that, though, he never had, like, a physically strong body because his dad had destroyed it.
That's true.
And here's this younger body. I mean, I don't really have any feelings towards the ending of this movie, but it caught me off guard. Like, I thought for sure, and then when they did the close-up of the goat, I was like, oh, they're going to put a fucking goat brain in.
That moment of realization, I was like, yes.
It kind of had that, like, end of season 4 feel to me of a show, where it's like, at this point, everything's just going to wrap up, and I guess the movie's over. I guess that's it. I guess we're all going to go home.
Yeah.
We're done.
That's it. We didn't have anything else. That was it. That was the whole of it. No, I will love this movie for one more thing, which is that it gave me something that I don't think we'll ever see in a comic book movie, that I have very mixed feelings about to begin with, but it's interesting to see Norman Osborn finally create his perfect Gwen Stacy so he can lay in bed next to her. Usually he has to go to Europe to do it, has some kind of cloning issue going on. This hits all the bases. I'm glad we didn't get to Norman and Gwen's children. Thank God, Jesus Christ. Yeah. But that was something that every time it came up, I was like, I mean,
I do, part of me does kind of wish she had pulled the classic movie thing where when Alfie shoots himself in the foot, she just walks out and walks by the butler and the maid and says,
have at him.
He's yours.
Yeah.
That, I mean, I don't know if that would be more satisfying than what she did.
But it would be satisfying.
It would be satisfying, very much so.
Yeah.
Because I don't think it was necessary to have him in that final scene. It was just that little silly thing saying, oh, he's a goat now. But, like, I liked...
And they really established, like, that would be very cathartic for them.
I was going to say, he's going to have some comeuppance because he's that level of evil that he has to have some kind of comeuppance.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of what level of comeuppance. Which this is a pretty devastating comeuppance for someone like him. He can't be super thrilled about what's happening. He's either a goat or dead. So take your pick.
Which I will be honest, the happiest I was with that ending was, is it Toynette? Is that how you say her name?
Yeah.
I'm so happy they brought her to live with her. Because it's like, they built that relationship, and then when she went back with Max, I was like, is that relationship just done now?
Yeah.
And then to see her there at the end, I was like, good. Like, that made me feel warm inside. I'm like...
It's a very modern family.
Yes.
Made of a lot of different interesting parts.
Fucking parts.
For Bella, it is the dream throuple for a bisexual.
Yes. Absolutely. Yes. Absolutely.
And it's like, and poor Max. Max is
just on for it. He's just like, I'll do anything.
He signed up for this.
The whole movie, like, that is the most patient man I've ever seen in my life. He's
the entire time. So you're going to go away with Duncan? Yeah. I'd really rather you didn't. Well, I'm going to.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then she's like, I want to marry you. Do you mind that I was a whore? No,
have you been
tested? Like, that's all he cared about.
You've been tested, right?
I just love that at one point he's even like, you are undercharging yourself.
Yeah. I usually charge 30 francs. That seems low.
That reminded me of Giovanni Ribisi's character in 12 or A Million Ways to Die in the West. Did you ever see that movie?
I did not.
What part of the joke is he's like this really religious plain guy, and his girlfriend is Sarah Silverman, who is a prostitute at the brothel. They're engaged to get married, but they won't have sex until they're married because they want to wait until they're married because she's Catholic. And they're like, but you're having sex with a million dudes, but you want... And that's how Max reminded me of. He's just like the quiet guy's like, I guess I'll wait until
all right,
we're married.
It works for me.
And they just were... Like, that reminded me so much of that because he was just the very nice...
Yeah.
I'll help, I'll take care of you.
He's like, I won't control your morals, but here are my morals.
Here's what I want.
Exactly.
This is what I'm going to do. You do whatever you want, because part of the thing that I do is to not get in people's way and tell them what they should do.
Yeah.
So you do what you want, but this is what I think.
Yeah.
And no, I like this movie a lot. I'd say this is definitely an A for me. Would you?
Oh, hard yes.
Hard A?
Oh, yeah, hard A.
I'm in the A category. I'm going to watch it again.
Yeah.
Before I think I'll be in the A. This was the type of movie, though, that I don't want to I can't judge it on the
Z
first
for zany.
watch. Like, I'm going to pretend like I haven't watched it yet, so I can't give it a grade.
Come back to me next Tuesday.
Because, like, I'll be honest, the first time I saw Baron Munchausen, Lighthouse, same thing. Where I'm like, I think I like this movie a lot. Same with The Witch. The Witch took me 3 viewings to realize that I really liked it.
I feel like with RR you came in, and the first time you watched, you were like, it's a lot.
Okay, no, that movie's just 3 hours of insanity. This movie's not quite insanity, but it's just got so many visual
it gets close
and
sometimes.
Psychological things that are just out there.
There's a lot of moments where you just have to, you get hit with a wave of information, and you just kind of have to be like, okay, I'm going to process that and deal with it.
And I know I've used this before. This is a Terry Gilliam movie.
Yeah.
And most Terry Gilliam movies, other than like maybe 12 Monkeys, when the first time I saw it, I was like, I don't know what the hell I just watched.
Yeah.
I need to watch it again. And then ended up loving them.
The Man Who Killed Don Quixote.
Oh my God.
When we watched that, we were like, what
a
the
fever dream.
fuck is happening?
It was a hilarious fever
Brazil,
dream.
for fuck's sakes.
Yeah.
That one took me like 5 viewings before I'm like, I get it now, and I really liked it. I think, like I said, I think I will say that I love this movie, but I need to watch it a couple more times.
Yeah.
Because maybe the whole sexuality thing also was just, goddamn.
That's
like,
a lot of
Yeah.
sex.
For a
just comes
A-list
at ya.
actress who has won an Oscar already.
And hadn't done a lot of nudity before.
No.
Yeah.
She's only done nudity in Yorgish's films.
Exactly. And not like I'm saying, this is borderline. Like if this was made 20 years ago, people would say this is a softcore porn movie.
This
would be
X-rated.
Exactly.
This would have been X-rated.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like I think I need to see it again to put everything more into context, because you do go from a sex scene to Willem Dafoe burping gas bubbles.
Yeah.
And you're like, what the fuck? And
What is happening?
And then a donkey or a goat's head on a chicken's body. And I'm
that
like, what the
freaked me
fuck?
out. That seriously messed me up. I did not like that. It was upsetting. It was deeply upsetting.
It was kind of a lot like, what's the High Evolutionary shit?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I can get the Dr. Frankenstein references, but it almost seemed like it was there to shock when it didn't need to, because the movie was already fucking out there.
It's already crazy.
Like, okay, you just said you took a baby's brain and put it into their mother's head to bring her back to life. I don't need to see a chicken on a monkey's body.
It was just too much. It
Yeah.
was just
Yeah,
and
it was-
too many times in too many iterations.
Yeah.
It was like, here's a duck and a dog. Here's a cat and a goat. Here's a chicken and a dog.
Yeah.
And it was just like, okay.
Okay, I get it, man. This
I
guy's
hate it.
fucked up.
I hate it, dude. I can't tell you how much I hate it because I hate it.
We get it. You're good at comping.
You figured out how to sew one thing onto
Yeah.
another.
But like, I guess the positive I would take from this is, if anyone asked me if they should see this movie, I would give it an emphatic yes.
Yeah.
With the caveat, if graphic sex makes you feel weird, be prepared,
Oh yeah.
because you get a lot of it. But it's everything around it is incredible.
Yeah.
Like, it truly is. Like, I understand 100% why she got the Oscar.
Yeah.
Like, there's no doubt in my mind. No one deserved it more than her.
Yeah.
Even though I haven't seen every movie that everyone else has been in, it's like,
No, you get it.
the growth
can you
she
grab
does
the
as a
things
character
now?
is quite unbelievable. Thank you, Kelly.
Yes, thank you,
For
Kelly.
your insight.
Thanks for
We do
having me.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
This is one of the movies that I'll point to when I look at something like Captain Marvel and I see this bifurcation where women love it and men don't like it. I'm gonna point to Poor Things and be like, this is a women's movie that men can understand and get a lot out
But
of.
I hope men that see it like it for the right reasons.
Not for lecherous reasons.
No.
That's the tricky
takeaway
thing.
that I really hope. Yeah. Because like I said, 20, 30 years ago, when I was just 100% hormones, would see this just for the nudity.
Yeah.
But like Baron Munchausen, I heard that Uma Thurman, who was only 18 at the time, you see her nipple for a second, and I'm like, I can't wait to see that. I think I was 15 or 16,
Yeah.
so that makes sense with that. But like seeing this, and I think that's kind of the takeaway with the nudity for me, is because the rest of the parts that wasn't sex was so strong.
Mm-hmm.
And I did love her character growth.
It's amazing.
Is one of the best transitions from, I mean, you get to see, because of the transplant, you get to see somebody go from infant to adult within a very short period of time.
In a better way than Boyhood did.
Oh,
Burn on Boyhood.
yeah, no.
Not impressed with Boyhood.
Um,
Tell a good story. Don't just give
But
me a
you're
gimmick.
right. And when I saw this, it made me not think of, actually, I didn't think of Captain Marvel. I thought of Barbie.
Barbie.
It's like, this movie to me was the best depiction of female empowerment.
Mm-hmm.
Because here you have Mark Ruffalo, like, so you are a toddler that just figured out that you
Mm-hmm.
can get sexually aroused, so I'm going to use that to just have sex with you constantly, to where she used it for her own growth. But then she also used her interactions with strangers and just her innocence to grow mentally. And it got to the end of the movie where it wasn't about her growth sexually, it was about her growth intellectually.
Yeah.
And it's like, God damn, why can't more fucking filmmakers see that?
Yeah.
It's like,
This is how you do character.
this is how you do it.
This is how you do a character. It's an arc.
And
It's
it,
not
like-
just 1 to 2 to 3.
And it doesn't say all men are assholes.
Yeah.
There are really only 2 male assholes in that
Yeah.
movie. Mark Ruffalo and Alfie.
Yeah.
That's it. Because you have the pretty much every other male she meets is either a father figure or somebody that, like, even the ones that the first guy that she asked questions to.
Yeah.
He didn't just say, screw you, I just want to fuck.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I'll go for it.
And
yeah.
it's like, yeah.
Thank
you for being
you get
that
this
way.
You get this whole spectrum of people where you
love
have Max and Rami Youssef, who is very placating and earnest in a way that we don't see enough in male characters for how many men I know who fit that criteria. We don't see that enough in male characters. You have obviously Godwin as a father and a creator figure, but then you have the two asshole men, and then you just have all of the guys at the brothel who are all at once anonymous, but you can very clearly tell who they are.
Yes.
And it's just like,
I guess the
it.
best way to say it is this is a very strong female empowerment film that's not anti-male.
No.
And that is like, this is what we asked for with Barbie.
Yeah.
It's like, you can do that, and this is the perfect story for that.
I love this movie. I think everybody should see it.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
make it a priority. I might suggest it to my dad. My dad is very finicky about nudity, so we're going to see how that goes.
Good luck with that.
I'm going to be like, listen, I get it. It's going to make you uncomfortable, but it's worth it.
Yeah. All right, folks.
Thank you to Kelly once again
Thank
for
you.
joining
That was
us.
Nerdpod Generations episode 134. Really hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed this episode greatly.
It was a very good one.
This was a very good episode. And like you said, two very different movies on the opposite ends of the spectrum, and I'm so glad. So once again, Nerdpod Generations episode 134. Please go back, listen to our back catalog. Go to youtube.com. Make sure to like and subscribe anything you watch or listen to from us. If you want to know more about us, you can find Al at.
You can find me at judsomstudios.work under the Bronx Division tab.
And someday I'm going to finish off a website. I know it's coming, folks.
It's coming at some point. I'm not going to make the sex joke after all the sex talk that we just had. Otherwise, you can check us out on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple.
Yep.
That's a great place for us to get
Who
comments.
did our logo, Al?
Our logo was done by Courtney Howell, and our theme was done by Brendan Williams
Love
and
both.
James Connolly. And we'll be back next week, maybe with X-Men, maybe with Avatar, who knows?
Maybe with Fallout.
Maybe with Fallout. We'll see.
We'll see. See you
Have a
later,
great week,
folks.
friends and enemies.